Good morning. Welcome to Retro Toy Princess. I am Allison Troy. My guest today is supposed to be Hyperdelic, but he's not here yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started without him, so we can stay on schedule. Really quick, I'm going to pop into the chat. Hello, Thanos. If it'll pull up. Oh. Yep, there we go. Thanks, StreamYard. There is. Good morning, Andrew. It's going to be some MOTU, and Thanos is here. Hello. It's not Moby. Because the beat didn't try to date Natalie. Well, try to date Natalie Portman, pretend he dated her, even though she was underage. So. Definitely not. All right. So this is a piece Hyperdelic had made. It feels a little weird if he's not here yet to color it. So I'm gonna set this aside until he gets here so we can talk about it. And in the meantime, I've got this MOTU page that was going to be on my next solo MOTU live stream. And I'll just do it now because I have plenty of MOTU to do. So since it's just me for the moment, yeah, let's do it. So yeah, definitely not Moby. So anyway, today is Mother's Day, and I'm wondering if that might be a little bit of where the signals got crossed. Because I do know Hyperdelic has a spouse who is a mother, so it's possible. I'm not good at those things. With my mom passed, I don't celebrate Mother's Day often, other than a few little remembrance to Carrie Fisher. Just because it's a weird thing. So anyway, but ironically, the Sorceress also sort of an absentee mother. And so it kind of works for my situation. Yeah, right. So this is from the MOTU 1984 MOTU coloring book. That was sort of the in-between time. So this book has a lot of pre-filmation stuff and then post-filmation stuff. And this is basically them adapting the page from the mini comic with the Green Goddess / Eternia Goddess and He-Man sort of from the very first mini comic. So there are a couple pieces of art in this particular book where they've done that, where because at the time the Sorceress wasn't necessarily, well, originally the goddess was not stuck being as part of Castle Grayskull. So yeah, yeah, Carrie is Space Mom. So anyway, we'll work on this for a little bit. And if Hyperdelic doesn't show up, it's cool. Obviously, I've got plenty to do, and you know I can talk. I'm probably one of the few people who can out-talk Lawrence over at A Punk with Toys, so, you know, that's something. Not everyone can say that. So anyway, I'm going to put some lines here. There's a little bit of a border. One of the, this is an older scan. And one of the things I had a problem with in the early days of scanning and converting these old books into pages was not necessarily scanning them in a way where they would print sort of full page in the way that you would normally, but that's fine. I kind of like the borders. So you will see this. It's usually how you can tell if it's an older thing that I worked on, because I have progressively gotten better at that when I scan something. Sometimes when I buy them as well, buy scans from people, the formatting won't quite translate. So some of the people who scan these do it for digital stuff, so they don't necessarily intend to print it and color it like I do. So, but yeah. So anyway, what is everyone doing for Mother's Day? I don't know, it's weird. I feel like I'm at an age where a lot of my friends' mothers have also passed. But a lot of my friends do have kids, so they get to do the whole thing. My cats are the closest I have to kids, and they have already harassed me for treats, which they got, so we're good. So that's Mother's Day with as a cat parent. They harass you, and yeah. The kitten did attack my feet this morning when I was getting up, so that I could give him love. That is the kitten's new love language: attack and then get love. So that's how I know he's a boy cat. But yeah. Anyhow, and oh, there we go. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know. Like, my mom sort of hated Mother. I mean, she liked that, like, she would get flowers and a present and stuff. But she didn't ever want us to take her out to dinner or make dinner. She just was like, we would wake her, like, if we tried to do the breakfast in bed thing, she would get mad. She is also, to be fair, my mom did suffer from a couple of eating disorders, so I feel like she probably disliked it because she felt obligated to eat the food. And she had the type of disorder where eating anything was a dicey prospect. So, yeah. So I would say that as an adult, that makes more sense now. But at the time, so we didn't really go out and do fancy stuff. She would sometimes, her and my dad would go out and see a movie or something, but it wasn't. It was very odd. It's like all of the pageantry around it, but whatever. Right. Yeah, like that. That was also something my mom did sort of in later years. She was not much of a phone answerer, especially around her birthday. And my mom also was very much. She was a boomer though. A lot of boomer women had a really hard time with the concept of aging, and with her eating disorder. I remember like the first time she had 101 pounds when I was a kid, and how she freaked out. And it's like, Mom, as you get older and our bodies change, there's a thickening that sometimes happens for older ladies. And based on genetics, that's probably what's going to happen. And then it happened, and she was just horrified. It's like you can only fight biology so much, peeps. So, anyway, that's enough about my mom. Hello, Payne. Good morning. Oh, sorry, that came and went. Good morning. Hello. Good to see you. How are you today? And of course, the cats have decided to rampage because, cats. I'm really quickly going to put in the background feeding ducks, which is sort of the music. And I'm going to turn off the Mobius trash because, yeah. And since it's just me, I am going to move to the solo layout so that you get a better view of what I'm doing. And then if Hyperdelic does show up, I can go in and change that. But no reason for you to look at my forehead. Despite what that man on the internet said that one time about it being the biggest forehead he had ever seen. I've seen other foreheads. I unfortunately cannot claim that I had the biggest forehead on the internet. Although it was flattering to be awarded with such by a man, especially one who had so little of a chin and so little hair. I was just like, well, you've got a big forehead too, because there's all that extra empty space. Oh my goodness, yeah. I think we all do. I think that's just part of what happens when you get older, your body slows down. It doesn't matter how active you are. I mean, even older, like older people who are extremely fit, there's just this thickening that happens. It's easy to get a little weird about it, but I mean, I have, someone I was briefly involved with who does a lot of bodybuilding, and he's like 56-ish now. And he goes to the gym every day still, and super healthy, super fit. And he still has like got some, has thickened, and of course he's handling it about as well as you would expect somebody who's made their physical aesthetic and a certain look their entire existence and personality. So he's handling it about as well as you would expect. But at the same time, it's just like you can only do so much. Biology and aging are going to do what they're going to do. Just be healthy, be happy. I wonder now if all the times he shamed me because I would have the Wendy's or the McDonald's or Red Lobster or whatever, because I did make him take me to Red Lobster a lot. He couldn't eat anything except like the like sauteed fish dish or whatever. But I would get like cheesy fondue stuff with lobster because he was paying, and you should always get the most expensive appetizer as your meal when somebody else is paying, like on a date, because then it looks like you're trying not to spend all of their money on food, but then you're still spending on an expensive item. So, Allison dating tip 117. Most expensive appetizer, so it looks like you're not trying to take them for every cent. Unless you're at Applebee's, then just don't even, like, just get a salad. And despite what some people want you to think, Applebee's isn't fancy at all, and it's not very good. So I do miss though when there were dollar Jello shots at Applebee's. So, you know, the good old days. You could go and get a couple Jello shots and a plate of fried mozzarella sticks. Oh, my 30s. Friday night after work with your work friends, happy hour at Applebee's. So bougie. Just kidding. Not bougie at all. Their mixed drinks were good though. I do think of all the chain restaurants where I've had a Long Island iced tea, that probably Applebee's is the second best after TGI Fridays. Because you can't travel to Long Island, the physical place, you might as well be there emotionally with a beverage from time to time. So. But yeah. So I am doing the fun part of this, which is just sort of laying down a really light green. It's called Celadon green, and this is what I use mostly for grayscale, the first few layers of green. I'm just doing it at different thicknesses. Thickness, is that right? Different darkness, I guess. The darkness, I think that's the word I dubbed the last time I did one of these. The darkeningness, which could also be an M. Night Shyamalan movie. The darkening is. So, there we go. About done with this first layer. This one this is one of those pages where I look at it, I'm like, oh, this will go thick, but it doesn't go thick. Oh yeah. Yeah, this will go quick, but it doesn't. Just because once I start getting in there, once I get all up in there with the little detailing, the rocks and stuff take forever. All the stems. Hello, Toy Mama. Lovely to see you. I hope you are having a good Mother's Day. So I do know you have, you're obviously a good mom because it sounds like your kids still talk to you and you get to see your grandkids. So that's always a good sign. I've got a couple of friends who have gone no contact with their family. And it always feels weird. I always feel bad for them, like at these sort of Mother's Day holidays. I do know that like the first 2 or 3 years after my mom died, I just avoided all social media on Mother's Day because it was really weird and really awkward. But it's gotten lesser. That's one of the things. Everyone's like, I think everyone, hopefully everyone watching my channel is of a certain age. Because that's, like obviously my goal is to appeal to old people like myself, Gen X, elder millennials. And my dad watches sometimes, so I know I have at least one boomer who watches. But we're sort of at an age where most of us have either lost a parent or lost family members, and our close friends or all of the above. And it's weird because everyone's like, oh, it gets better. I've never personally found that it gets better. It just gets less intense. Like there's still days where it's like the passage of my mom feels as immediate as it did the day of. And then other days it's fine. So it's just numbness, acceptance, whatever. It doesn't, like I said, it's not that it gets better, it's just it's easier to stomach it and live with it. So anyway. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the first few years I just avoided all social media. Which I do in general now for the most part. It's funny how active I've become on Instagram because of the channel. And just because of the people I've met because I'm doing this channel. And which a lot of you are here. So thank you for popping in to hang out for a little bit today. It's muchly appreciated. I have a really cool community building up around my channel, and I have made really cool friends as doing this, and I appreciate all of y'all. So, and there it is. I just heard the southern accent slip in, so that might happen today. So anyway. It's a good question. All right. It's really cool. So do you guys do like a big dinner, Christina? Like, are you just gonna like get food and hang out? That's sort of the normal thing that I never. I don't know if you had popped in when I talked about my mom and her weirdness, but like it's really kind of cool now to hear about other people's big Mother Day rituals. I have a friend who she has many children, like 4 or 5 of them, and like there's this whole ritual that is like the entire weekend of Mother's Day where it's like movies and dinners and flowers and balloons, and it's a lot of pageantry. And so always sort of fun because you can tell like who is made up. And I say made up, but like we all make our own little sort of family rituals. And it's just interesting sort of some of the rituals that because again, when I was a kid, it wasn't as you got your mom a card, you bought maybe some cheap perfume, breakfast in bed, maybe took her out to dinner. For the last couple of decades, it's become a much bigger thing. So it's been really interesting watching the evolution of that, where like Mother's Day and Father's Day have started becoming bigger deals. Ooh, barbecue. It's been forever since I've had, I'm in the Pacific Northwest. We're not as known for barbecue up here as we are back home in the South, but barbecue is good. So, there are a few like decent barbecue places, so I'm not going to completely shade the entire region. They're just rare. And then also a lot of the people up here are from like states where like barbecue is actually not very good. So it's really hard. Growing up in Texas and Louisiana, like there's some really good barbecue down there. So the first time somebody took me to a barbecue restaurant up here and advertised it as like the best barbecue in town, I was excited, and then it was really not good. And then I got dumped over that dinner. So the only thing worse than bad barbecue is getting dumped over bad barbecue. I think the reason was like I was too emotional, so then I went to the bathroom and cried instead of crying at the table. So there, because if I were too emotional, I would have cried at the table. Really, I should have cried at the table because that barbecue was, it was like, is this just ketchup and like some Worcestershire? Can I say Worcestershire? Yeah, there we go. I got it. That sounded pretty normal. So yeah, it was just like ketchup and Worcestershire and a lot of pomp and circumstance, but not much of a barbecue sauce. So, and it was spendy. It was like, I mean, I didn't pay. So that was the nice thing, is somebody else paid. And then he broke up with me for being too emotional. And then I cried. And the food was so bad, I didn't even want to take any of the leftovers home to eat the next day. So, not one of my happiest nights. Oh, hello, Hylandra. And then Black Phoenix, I see your hair. No worries, no worries. Doctor Who is a pretty big deal. Hello, Rolando. Nice to see you. So for those just popping in, hi, Cyberdelic was supposed to be here. He is not able to make it. So I'm just doing Masters of the Universe as planned. This is from the 1984 MOTU coloring book it's one of my channel goals for this year, is to color this entire book in 2024, and so far I'm doing all right. So a little behind, but not all of the pages are good enough to like turn into a video or a live stream, so some of them will end up getting done. I'll just have them here like on the desk while I'm holding for work calls for my day job. So day job's been a little hectic as far as having time to sort of color while holding or whatever, but we're kind of slow during the summer, so I expect once our summer slow time kicks in, and I've got some time off coming up, so that'll be good. I've got to travel for some family stuff, and then I'm just going to take some time off. So, because I've not had like a proper vacation since before lockdown. So yeah, I'm going to do that. And also, oh, and I guess while we're here, hello Todd, lovely to see you today. Yeah, while we're here sort of hanging out for a little bit, I'm coming up on 1 year of making content on the channel. It was like July 7th, I think, that I dropped my first short, one of the coloring ones, and then I started doing daily shorts on July 15th. So on July 15th is, and I should be able to make it because I have, as long as I can finish 15 of my time-lapse coloring shorts that I do between now and July 15th, I will have released a short every day for 1 year. So that for me was a big goal I set. I wanted to try that, to see if I could do it. And that was partly to build a habit around creating stuff. And it looks like I'm going to meet that goal because I did I think I've done so far 8. I filmed 8 shorts this weekend, and then I'm going to do a couple after stream today. So that's coming up, but there will be, in June, I'm taking a little time off, and I'm going to have some pre-records for these Sunday mornings. I've got 2 filmed, one with already and ready to go, one with Bud from my buddy's custom. We're doing some MOTU. And then I've got one which is a very special episode of Retro Toy Princess with Derek Hoover from the Yesterday's podcast, our friend Derek. His schedule with family and stuff is not such that he can easily do a Sunday morning live stream. So we did a pre-record, and that's going to hit in June. And I've got a few more that I'm lining up so that while I'm off, there's still some stuff here for you guys to hang out with. And I like having that schedule. Partly it's my OCD. I like knowing that I've completed some pages and I get to share that and hanging out with cool people with you guys. So. Accurate. Yeah. So I'm going to leave that up there for a bit, Thanos. And I'm also going to say I was one of those people. So my mom was a decent cook, but she was also very territorial about the kitchen. So I didn't really learn how to make up much. I could microwave stuff. But I didn't even really know how to boil water until high school when I took cooking home ec. And then in home ec, I learned how to make like 5 different things during the semester, because it was like 2 6-week periods is the way it worked where I went to school. So basically it was like September through like December was the way that and I took cooking. And in that time, I learned how to make 3 main dishes, 2 side dishes, and a dessert. And that was literally all I knew how to make for from 11th grade to 27. And then when I was 27, right after all the .com bust, because I worked at a couple of .coms that went out of business, had some severance, and then just took some downtime before I moved to the Pacific Northwest. Started watching Nigella Lawson. I don't know if you know who that is. Highly recommend her. But she made cooking fun, and because at one point I discovered Martha Stewart, and old Martha Stewart before prison was not fun. Old Martha Stewart was the worst. She and I had beef before she went to jail and became humble. So, anything cooking was very Martha Stewart and very I'm not a traditional kind of gal. So, ironically, I do all the cooking in the house now. Just because if I let Matt cook, it would be chicken strips and french fries every night. That's about what he can cook. But it wasn't until I was 27. I liked Nigella, so I started watching every episode of her show every day. And I would record it on a VCR. And then and some of her stuff, because she's English, some of the stuff she would recommend I couldn't easily find in Texas at the local HEB. But I would sort of substitute, and that was sort of where I learned how to cook. I did pretty good. For a while I was doing event planning, and we got hired to cater stuff. My deviled eggs were always pretty popular, but frankly it's kind of hard to mess up deviled eggs. Although I just heard myself say eggs and definitely heard the southernness. So. But yeah, but before all of that, I was not somebody who, I remember inviting a friend over to my apartment, on her lunch break, and I was like, you should come over, I'll make lunch, it'll be amazing. And I remember cooking a whole chicken, and I put some butter on it, and that was it. I did not season that chicken. That poor woman came to my house to hang out on her lunch break, and so we could gossip and catch up, and I fed her some bland ass chicken. And I made instant mashed potatoes, the potato flake kind. So all I put in that was butter. And then green beans. At least the green beans had some salt and pepper on them, but it was canned green beans that I microwaved. So yeah, like there was a time where eating out you would not want me to cook for you because it would be some bland ass chicken. At least I didn't try to put raisins or something on it. So there's that. But then I found Nigella Lawson, and she's made it sound fun, and she's very sort of. One of the things she said on an episode was, "It doesn't look very." I'm not going to mock her British accent. She's like, "It doesn't look very pretty." She's like, "But who cares? It tastes delicious," and that was sort of what shifted it, because at that point, a lot of the cooking shows were like, "And it needs to look like this for your 17 guests that are going to come over at Martha Stewart." You know, I would watch Martha Stewart because I'm like, I'm going to learn how to do all this. I'm going to be a good wife one day. And Martha's like, we're going to show you how to make this really quick and fun brunch recipe for your guests. First, you're going to get up and you're going to go out to your chicken coop and you're going to get fresh eggs. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll just get store eggs. And she's like, next, we're going to spend 2 hours whipping this so we can make a lovely hollandaise sauce. And it's like, it's not quick and easy, Martha. Not quick and easy. So it's kind of where she lost me. It was like when she would advertise something as quick and easy, and it was literally 3,000 hours in a chicken coop. So yeah. That was what I liked that too, because those were the days I didn't have to eat at the cafeteria. And my high school cafeteria, you know, like we had pretty decent food for the most part. But there were some days where they tried to slide some shit by. And it's like, I don't think that pudding should have this gritty consistency. They had the best bread rolls though. And then the big like baking pan of pizza, that was pretty good. So I always made sure. And then once every so often they would do like brown bag where it was like a burger and fries. And that was always really good. I mostly got the salad bar though, because I was on a diet all of high school. I remember being, oh my god, I am the biggest, fattest heifer ever. And then I looked at pictures and I'm like, where was the fat? I had some baby fat. A little extra pudge. Otherwise, I will never be that thin again. And back when I was doing like the Brenda Dickerson workout, that way you can look like a lollipop. That one was for Andrew. If you're still watching, sir. Here's the oohs and outs of eating. Alright, we've got all the rocks and stones done, so that went pretty cool. Now we're going to do the door. I can tell I've been doing this a while, how quickly we're barely 40 minutes in and I finished the door. I mean, I finished all the floor and the rocks. That normally takes a lot longer. Let's see. So for the door, I am going to use... it's Prismacolor. It's called Sand. It's kind of like a khaki color. Sort of like sand. But this will do. Alright, there we go. Excellent. So anyway, for doing wood, I often will do this as my first step. Down like this beige, sort of beigey, khaki color. Especially with Prismacolor, it helps give it a texture so that you get sort of a wood look, which is never bad. And some parts of it I'll go really dark and some will be light, because again, wood grain Usually, I mean, I guess if you stain it and you're very on top of it, I'm going to assume Castle Grayskull, though. Nobody is going around once a year and touching up the stains on the doors and stuff. I mean, it could be wrong. Through magic, it may, but it looks pretty drafty and pretty much like it's kind of fallen apart a little bit. So we're going to assume that aside from not raising her own kid, that the sorceress is not running around touching up the stains on all these old, especially if she's blowing it up, so that they can get in there to confront Skeletor. I'm now going in with, this one is terracotta. So it's like a brown, it's a reddish brown, and I'm just gonna go in with that and do these little sort of half strokes. Some will be darker, some will be lighter, and again, that just sort of helps give it a wood texture look. So if you ever see a wood texture on one of my pages and you're wondering how I do it, sort of do that light, sort of a light sand, a really sort of off yellow, off white, just something to sort of give that base coat, and then you go in the brown, and then some dark, some light, because again, time and age is going to give it sort of that sort of an off look. So there we go. It's pretty okay. It's weird being here on a Sunday and looking up and seeing my whole page filling the screen. Not complaining. I kind of like doing it this way anyway. I like when it's just the page. Kind of weird when it's a guest. And they're not set up for their page to be on screen, but I like those. The episode I pre-recorded with Bud, we did just page on screen, so that'll be pretty cool. Like I said, I like, especially when conversation gets good, I think it's cool to have. And, you know, I make faces when I'm coloring as I'm thinking about stuff, so nobody needs to see my weird faces or my giant forehead. And I probably will never let the giant forehead comment go, because, you know, when a man lets you know something about your appearance is displeasing him on the internet, you need to really just always remember that. Because that's what's important, right? Some random man with, you know, all forehead because his hair has left him. And no shame to bald people. Like, bald men can be very attractive. Bald women can be very attractive. Look at that Star Trek movie. But if you're going to talk about someone's forehead, you need to make sure that your forehead isn't gigantic as well. So, I mean, he could have just been telling me I would look better with bangs and doing a bad job of it. Whatever. Yeah, exactly. Now go film this little doggy. We're going to put this on the internet so mommy can make money. So if you don't know what I'm referring, there's a comedian named Devin Green. And she took this video of soap opera actress Brenda Dixon from the 80s. She did, like, back then a lot of, sort of like, I mean, now it would just all be like on Instagram or whatever. But somebody gave her money to make this video, or she put her own money to make this video about her lifestyle. She gives, like, diet tips, and Devin Green is this, in my opinion, really funny comedian. And she does, if you've ever seen Betty Bauer, America's Best Christian on the internet, Devin Green is that actress. She's the one who plays her. She and her friend write those. And, but she'll do these voiceovers for all the old 80s exercise videos, the sort of infomercials, commercials, old soap operas, and one of the best one is Welcome to My Home, making fun of the Brenda Dixon video. She's got a couple of them. They're all pretty good. So it's a very specific kind of humor. If, you know. So it's really funny if you're into that humor style. If you're not, it's probably going to go over your head and you're going to be like, but what? But I do know that back when it first hit the internet, me and friends would go to happy hour and quote big chunks of it pretty. I mean, yeah, so definitely recommend looking it up. I don't know if it's still on YouTube, because Brenda Dixon does a lot of copyright strikes where she tries to get it pulled down, even though it does in fact fall under fair use the way it's been repurposed. But it's kind of all Brenda Dixon has now, is being an old, bitter person on the internet, and we love that for her. So. Right, door is mostly done. I'm going to go in with a darker brown, and not the whole door. I'm just going to go in and darken some of it a little bit. Again, that's sort of how wood's been stained, but over time you don't touch it up. It sort of has an inconsistency to it, so little bits of realism like that I like to sort of add in, especially with like stuff like MOTU or Strawberry Shortcake. Because despite the one live action movie, most of MOTU has been, and there's never, thank God, there's never been a live action. If anyone from Hollywood is watching this, we do not need live action Strawberry Shortcake. Do not try to make that happen. Nobody needs that. And whatever you do, if you do it animated, please don't get Chris Pratt to do the voice. We don't need any more Chris Pratt. We're good. I saw the preview for the Garfield movie before episode 1 last weekend, and can we just stop hiring Chris Pratt to do everything? Anyway, that's the end. Anyway, Hollywood, do not make live action Strawberry Shortcake. Nobody needs that. Nobody wants that. It will be stupid. So just go back and get all the old original cartoons and then update the animation to something new and update the stories a little bit. But otherwise, nobody needs Emma Stone playing a grown-up Strawberry Shortcake. Oh God, and that's who they would get. Emma Stone is Strawberry Shortcake. And they would make it like she's all grown up now and going back to Strawberry Land, where nothing is as she remembers. So, let's not do that. Yeah, and well, that's the thing about that video is like watching it, it's ridiculous that even for 80s, it's just like, you wonder what kind of substances were involved with the process of somebody convincing Devin Green Brenda Dixon, like, this is a great idea, we should do it. I wonder anyway, as somebody who was there were definitely some substances involved in that. But, Devin Green elevates it, but it's just, for me, it's kind of oh my God, this really happened. Sort of before the Devin Green, and then after Devin Green, it makes the actual video more funny. When you're watching, I've watched it since. I don't think I ever watched it back during the heyday of it. I didn't actually know who Brent. I was not a Young and the Restless person. Our house was ABC, All My Children, One Life to Live, General Hospital, Edge of Night before it was canceled. Which, if you enjoy The Edge of Night, or want to see Aunt Becky from Full House when she was like 16, 17, YouTube, there is a channel on YouTube that uploads old episodes of The Edge of Night. But anyway, but I didn't know who Brenda Dixon was because we didn't really watch one of my babysitters watched Young and the Restless, and it was the summer that Michael Damian and I think his name was Danny, he and Tracy Bregman wrecked, who I knew from the amazing 80s slasher from Canada, Happy Birthday to Me. They were like rock stars or something, and they were like in this big love triangle with some other girl who had a bad blonde perm. That was the summer I watched because my babysitter watched it, but otherwise I didn't watch a lot of Young and the Restless. Ironically, even though it was called Young and the Restless and they had that one summer with the young people, it always felt like it was the old people on there. And every summer, all my children always had, like, all the kids went from like 5 to like 17 just in time for me to get home for the summer. So, like, the previous summer, the kid was being born, and then the next summer, they're a teenager having some big fun summer storyline. And General Hospital. My mom let me stay home from school to watch Luke and Laura get married. Like, priorities. Because it was, it was Luke and Laura. Come on, guys. It's a big deal. Even Elizabeth Taylor was in that. Oh, that's the same one. So, yeah. Just doing the metal. For the metal stuff, I do a really light, silvery gray. Then I do a darker one. And this is a Prismacolor Verithin. They're really thin, they're really hard, they're much closer to what most people think of color pencils. And I like to use that with sort of metal and gray, just because the way it shades and flattens some of the... Prismacolor is very creamy, and this sort of smooths out some of that creaminess, but also like flattens it a little bit, so that you get a little bit of texture with it and a little bit more depth. So, at least in my opinion. Other people may beg to differ, and we love that for them. It's the nice thing about art. It's a little bit different for everyone. Unless you're Moby, and then it's not art, it's just garbage, and you're garbage Moby. I've got a timer here that lets me know how long it's been since I last shaded movies, so if you ever wonder. Alright, for the explosion here, I'm going to go in with this neon yellow. Fun thing about this neon yellow is it looks decent-ish on camera and in photography, but when I scan the neon yellow, or any of these neon colors, my scanner actually doesn't pick up the neon, so... But a few pages I've scanned in that have this neon, and it's missing. So I don't know what it is about my poor crappy scanner, but it is what it is. But you live watching this get to enjoy the neon of it. And I'm just gonna go in and sort of blend out some of the neon with a regular yellow. This one is Deco Yellow. And the blend isn't, what you're saying doesn't look super good, but that's okay because this is an in-between step. I'm going to now go in with an orange and just sort of do this to make it sort of like fiery, magical, powerful. And that sort of helps blend out that weird yellow that was there. So it all sort of comes together now. And that is one of the things I do like about Prismacolor pencils, is you get sort of to blend and layer like this. Not all color pencils will blend and layer, so a lot of the more inexpensive sets don't sort of layer very well. And for some people that doesn't matter, so. But I like it. I like that I can get a cooler color. And see, if you look at the explosion, this same principle I could apply to G.I. Joe pages at some point and do G.I. Joe. So, you know, the background from the old cards, that explosion. the original explosion, not later when it had that weird digitized wannabe camo look to it. I never understood that. It was very odd. Alright, no, that's fine. I was about to get fussy with it, but I think that's okay. I need to just let it go and not be so particular. Alright. So He-Man and the Sorceress are left. I'm going to start with just sort of their skin tone. And for the skin tone, I start with, right now, this may evolve, but lately I've been using Eggshell through Prismacolor as my first step. For Caucasians, the Mayo Sapiens. And then I'll go in and add more to it so that they have sort of different shading and different pigment. I tend to, Sorceress tends to be more pale, and He-Man tends to have more of a tan, so. But everyone starts with, that's a Caucasian, starts with it. There we go. And start with He-Man. I'm going to go with start with this belt, which I'm going to do this orange with it. And I'm going to put a little bit of the orange in the shorts and the boots. Not a lot, just a little so that it gives some depth when I drop the other colors in there. I'm going with this darker orange for the belt. And this one is mineral orange. So it's got more of a sort of earth toneness to it. And then I'm going to do this dark brown on top of the orange with the shorts. But again, just some of it, not all of it, because it's fur. These are fur shorts. I always wonder if, like, do they wear underwear, or, like, are the furry shorts, like, are they actual, like, briefs, like underwear? So I don't know, like, some of the figures, they're made like they're briefs, like they're underwear themselves, and then others, sort of like a lot of the Masterverse and the classics, it was like they were just loincloths. So I think if we get another live action movie, if it actually happens, I need that question answered first and foremost. Are they like briefs, or are they loincloths with something under? Or are they all going commando under? The questions. This is what keeps me up at night. With that and my existential dread. There we go. All right. Alright. Let's see. coffee. All right, we're gonna do use this cream. It's the name of the pencil. We're gonna do cream for his the little furry things. And use the brown to sort of texturize and suggest the individual fur. And then back to the cream, sort of blend it out. So if you ever wonder what's happening during when I make shorts, like, you know, compressing 3 to 4 hours of a coloring page into 30 seconds, this is what the it's kind of what it sounds like. So pretty boring. Well, that in the background, I'm usually watching YouTube. So if you're here and you have a YouTube channel, I'm probably watching you, or watching true crime, or all the TikTok drama people, the videos they do on YouTube about TikTok drama. I like to stay advised of what's going on. I'm going to use pumpkin orange for He-Man's skin. And I'm going to go in and sort of shade on top of that eggshell. And this is where I'll start sort of giving him that sort of tan complexion we think of with He-Man. I just do around the edges and sort of places where I want sort of the extra shading to give it more dimension. We use this sea shell pink, and that's what I'm going to use to sort of buff out that pumpkin and sort of get to that sort of tan complexion I think of when I think of He-Man. I need to sharpen this a little, it's a little dull. There we go. Yeah, well, not only the chafing, Alex, but also just the sort of the smell. You know, because it's a lot of exertion, and yeah, so I mean, it smells probably a little, it seems like it would be maybe a little worse if it's all contained, but at the same time, it's a lot different than when you get home and take off your furry shorts after a day of fighting Skeletor and his minions in the slime pit, then just sort of a stray breeze catching it while you're chilling in the attack track with your friend. Well, the Filmation one, because the toy one, only one person will fit. I'm now going with, this is called Nectar. And I'm just using the Nectar. It's a little bit nectar. And it's got like a bit more of a peachiness to it. Just using that to sort of, because that seashell pink has a little bit of like a grayness to it. So this just helps sort of give his skin a little bit of color isn't the right word, obviously, because it's all color, but it gives it a robustness. Let's call it robust. Because people usually only use that for tomato sauce. But today we'll use it for He-Man's skin tone. And we'll give him a robustness. So word of the day, use it in a sentence at least once, robust. The more preposterous, the better. If you have to use the bathroom, be like, that was very robust. There were remains of corn from last week's dinner. So, happy Mother's Day with the corn reference, of course. Yeah, it would smell really terrible. So. Alright, there we go. Pretty happy with the skin. Just realized looking at the framing that all the work I did down here on the boots is not on camera. So anyway, but it's fine. I'll have the full picture up on Instagram later. So just a little bit right down in here that you can't see. It'll be on there so that you can like live your life secure in the fact you saw every inch of the page. It's actually, I mean, like, I hope Hyperdelic's okay, but it's also kind of cool that I get to do this page because I haven't been able to do one of the MOTU solo streams in a while, so I'm sort of worried about, like making that end of year deadline. There's like 60 some pages in that book. It's a lot to color with all the other stuff I'm doing. So it's kind of nice to get this because it means I can get. And this one is sort of one of the ones back in January I had people vote on. And this one got quite a few votes. And I just haven't got to, because I did Merman March, so I did all those Merman pages instead. So, and it ended up falling on Mother's Day, so yeah. Even again, I'll repeat it again, the Sorceress was not a very good mom because I don't know. There's probably a discussion to be had for it, and this is not one. It's like it. To me, it makes no sense that she couldn't just, like, Tila couldn't just know who her mom was. Like, yeah, you can't tell everyone who your mom is because that would put you in more danger. But at the same time, Tila was always in danger anyway because of her dad being friends with He-Man, and she became the captain of the Royal Guard, where one of her jobs was to guard Prince Adam. So it's not like, I don't know. It's not like she was in any less danger in the life path they stuck her in that she would have if she would have grown up knowing her mom was a sorceress. But I guess that's the problem when you try to go in with fictional situations that work for fiction and try to apply real world logic to them. For He-Man's hair, I'm going to put a little bit of brown in it. just to help give it some contrast. Also going to bring back some of the mineral orange that I used in Anne's belt and put a little bit in that. And now yellow ochre, which is a lot closer to sort of the actual hair color of that they use for the tour. So just sort of use that to blend everything. So he has sort of a realistic strawberry reddish brown thing happening with his blonde hair. So it's pretty good. All right, Sorceress. I don't know. Should I do traditional colors? Should we do? Yeah, this is in between Sorceress. So at the time, the mini comics would have put her in like pink or blue or anything but post-filmation colors. So I think I'm gonna go blue. Because despite sort of the white of the Temple of Darkness, there were a couple times where she was in a bluer hue. We'll start with just powder blue. I'm going to put powder blue over all of her outfit. And I use darker colors to sort of do the shading for it. Yeah, I think that's, and I think I'll do like her little, the sort of Zor crown part of her headdress. I think I'll do that like gold. I think, yeah, it's kind of, I don't know if anyone has seen pictures of the Sorceress's outfit for the ice show, the He-Man and She-Ra Power Hour thing. But she was like, they had her in like blues and golds. So I'm gonna go, yeah, we're gonna do blue and gold for the Sorceress. So not a lot of gold, just a little bit, but mostly blue. I always felt like the orange and blue scheme was too garish as a kid. I never thought it worked well together. So I always liked the pink or the Temple of Darkness or the times where it looked like it was supposed to be blue. Really liked the pink that they used over in She-Ra when she would appear in the She-Ra mini comics. Alright, so I've got my basic blue down. Go in with, it's called electric blue. Use that to start sort of shading parts of it. And this is a little bit closer to the actual blue that they used for the toy and in Filmation, but not quite. Definitely not using it that way. So. Oh god, that's right. There is that element to it for sure. Yeah, robust edge. There definitely will be some pink sorceresses, so don't worry. Because like I said, I don't really care for her Filmation color scheme. Just the blue and the orange, and it just doesn't. I mean, I get that it was to mirror the Zor toy at that point. Filmation, because Filmation was tying it all in, but I don't know. Just for me, it's not. It worked for Zor, but it didn't translate to an actual costume, in my opinion, very well. Much prefer I think the first mini comic I got as a kid with the Sorceress and the bird rather than the Cobra stuff was the Temple of Darkness, which no, it was the Secret of Life one, the one with Prince Daikon and Geldor, and it came with Jitsu. Like I remember getting Jitsu in 1984 at United, which was, I don't know if they saw Service Merchandise. It got bought out. It was United and then got bought out by Service Merchandise. But it was still United when I got my Jitsu there. And that was the only place I'd ever seen Jitsu. I don't remember seeing him in most stores, which everyone had him. So I would just assume he was really popular. Big gold fit, the big gold hand though. Vac metal. He really. I mean, that's sort of the thing. A lot of the MOTU figures is, you know, as kids, they were really sort of striking and they really stood out. I remember my mom often. I wonder if sometimes the color schemes were tested on parents, because my mom, a lot of times, like my mom loved Mossman. And she's as soon as she saw Mossman, like she bought like two or three. She got one for me, one for my brother. It was one of the only figures we both had our own individual figure of. She bought one for our neighbor kid, because my neighbor kid, he was like my brother's best friend, and they were both they would get their He-Man. They had the little plastic He-Man swords. And it was before either of them were in school, and they would go out in the yard and play. Because back then, kids, especially where we lived, you could just go outside and play without, you know, people too worried. We were also rural enough that, like, if, you know, someone strange was in the neighborhood, you saw them, your dog would have started barking the second they got too close. But they went out in the yard and they would shake their He-Man sticks out. They would pretend the garbage people, and they would come to get the garbage, were Skeletor. So they would go out and shake their swords and challenge, finger quote, Skeletor, but it was just like the garbage truck. That guy always looked so annoyed. In that summer that I was home and would finger quote watch them while my mom, because my dad worked offshore a lot, so he would be off sometimes, but not always. But I would finger quote babysit, and I would go out and laugh watching them challenge the garbage people with their little He-Man swords. And every day that garbage man came, he just looked so annoyed that those kids were shaking their swords at him and calling him Skeletor. I mean, he did look a little like Skeletor, so I can see why the mistake happened. So yeah, Audible was pretty good. So, all right, let's see. It's looking pretty good. I just need to darken it a little bit more at just the tip. Going with this darker blue tone here. Should add some more to it. Again, just to give it depth and help it look a little bit. I mean, there's no way to make this thing like look real, because it's obviously sort of a drawing. There are little things you can do that give it the suggestion of realism, and that's all it is. It's a suggestion. That tricks the eye into thinking something looks more real than it is. So, yeah, and it's helped write better art. As I've admitted a couple of times and stated a couple of times on streams where I do pages from this book, some of the art in this book is not very good because it was obviously very rushed and very thrown together. It's fun to work with for me though, because it gives me way more room. Sort of just go in and do little things to make it look better. So there we go. like that. It's pretty good on camera too. It's always nice when it looks good to my eye here on the desk, but also looks good when I look up at the camera. So it's a win-win. It means you guys are getting some of the effect of that. So, fun fact, last week before I went to episode 1, which was fun and amazing, but I've also always liked episode 1. I went to Ross, because Ross has all the toys. I got a $15 point dread because I've got a custom playset project I want to work on that I need an extra point dread for. To get started on that. That might be one of the things I do on my time off is focus on, and then I'll film some of it to make for the channel. Because, the coloring is a big part, but one of my other things I want to do for this channel is sort of my custom figures and some play sets and stuff. But they had Sorceress for like $2.99, so I grabbed one because the Oregon Sorceress has a really pretty, in my opinion, a very pretty face. That lends itself pretty well if you remove the bird stuff. Some pretty cool costumes, so. There we go. So all the darker blue. And grab the powder blue again. I'm just going to use the powder blue because sort of blend out around the top here. So there are a few places where it's a little not quite as blendy as I would like. So I'm just going to blend some of this out. There we go. Nice. There we go. Looks pretty good. I feel pretty happy with that. Okay, now let's do our little gold. The headdress that we're going to do gold. I'm going to start. This is lemon yellow. So for gold, it's not a big area, but it's enough of an area. So I always start with, for gold, a lemon and yellow, or just sort of a yellow, any sort of a yellow, but that one's a good one. And for this one, I'm going to use Tuscan red. just because I want to try to get it pretty quick. And then sort of go in. And it's such a small area that it's not going to be quite as sort of striking as if it was a bigger area. But it works for what it is. Go back in with sort of that first yellow and then just really blend it out and go a lot harder with the yellow. So, autofocus. There we go. So it looks about as good, with that small of an area and the detail on it. It's about as good as I'm going to be able to get it, but it works. You know. So now let's do the Sorceress's skin. For her, I'm not going to use the pumpkin. I'm going to just jump straight to the nectar. And again, there's so small, this area, that like I don't actually need to do a lot for the face anyway. There's only so much detail I'm going to be able to get with as small as this is. So just going to use the nectar to sort of create shadows and some texture to it. And then I'm going to grab the powder blue. No, actually, instead of powder blue, I'm going to use cloud blue. I'm going to use that just for the eye. A little bit of eyeshadow there. And for the lip, I'm going to go Crimson Lake. And yeah, that shows up on camera. It's just very small. So. And one last thing. For the skin, anyway. I'm going to use a light peach. And that helps, again, she has, even if you look at the action figures, she has a lighter skin tone than even Tila, because Tila's got more of that golden brown tan happening. So this is more in line with the action figure. And it's all that time inside a musty old castle away from the sun has left the sorceress rather pale. So let's try to honor her paleness. And there she is. All right. Excellent. All right. And that's done. So that works. Got one of these done. So it's been a while since I finished one of these on a string, so that's cool. I quite enjoy that. I like, I mean, obviously sometimes I have to say, well, go look at it on Instagram. This will be up on Instagram later, but it's just kind of cool that you guys could see one whole thing finished. So, like I said, it does not happen a lot these days. Too fussy, especially on these ones where I have a guest, because often I get distracted talking. So really quick, just one more time. Here we go. It's the whole thing. And like I said, I'll have a picture of this up on Instagram in a little bit. Let's see. It's 1:25. It's an hour and 25 minutes into it. I'm definitely not going to finish another one. However, I'm going to start one. Might as well do the full 2 hours. I have the time blocked out. So, and if I finish this early, I will go make up some. I mean, if I just end early, I'll go do something boring like wash dishes or do household stuff. And screw that. The cats are actually chill and asleep, so that's Cat Mother's Day. So and this is a Mechanic and Tila page that I've got a stack of pages that aren't. This is not a very exciting page, so I have a pile from this book of things that technically would not make good shorts. I couldn't do them as good of a color and show because they're not super interesting. So I'm just gonna start it on the stream. So, because we definitely won't be finishing this one in 30 minutes, but we can start it, and then that way, later when this one just shows up, at the end of the project of finishing this 84 book, you guys from the stream will be like, oh yeah, we saw some of that. Because this is when I would normally just color offline at my desk at work, so you guys can kind of see the process of what one of those sort of looks like. Spoiler alert, it's not a lot different than stuff I film. It's just usually a less exciting picture. But this one might not be that bad once I start adding to it. I'm not sure what. I mean, we've got Mechanic up here, like on a cliff. Tila looks like she's down on the beach, and this looks like water. So yeah. And for this one, I have these water-based markers that I picked up on Amazon. They're like $20, so not a spendy set. And I've got this big set of alcohol markers, which is also it's not a huge, it was like $30. It's not a super spendy set either. They don't work a lot with markers, so I'm not very good at it. So you guys will get to see me not be very good with this, because I'm figuring it out, which is fun to do with these kind of pages. Because they're not necessarily the best page, they're not the most interesting page, so it's a good place to practice stuff. So I'm going to practice. I'm going to start with this Pale Blue Light 185, and this is Kinsbury brand. I have never heard of them. They were on Amazon Prime Day deal for me last year, so I got them because I'm like, I need to learn alcohol markers, and I've been playing with them, which is not as much as I should. I did a couple shorts yesterday using them and started sort of figuring it out. So this is obviously, I'm pretending it's water. I feel like that's what it's supposed to be. So I'm just going to roughly go in with this alcohol marker, sort of like a base coat. Try not to don't worry too much about the lines down here because this is just sort of where I'm starting. This is not going to be obviously the final look. Hopefully this goes well. If it does not, you guys get to say you were here the day it went sideways. And one of the disadvantages that I found is that the paper I use does sort of get a little warped because it's cardstock, but it's not necessarily marker. And there are different types of paper that you would want to use when you're using a marker. I don't know. So, this is from the water-based set. A couple different blues. So I'm going to use this one, and this guy, and this one. And as you can tell, I have not worked out sort of a palette for these. It's kind of how this stuff works. It's just a little, I grab some colors and I go with it. So these have a fine line side, which I'm going to use for the water, and the brush side, and that's what I'm going to use today. And I'm just going to go in and do a bunch of this with it, sort of to start the process of simulating water. So we'll see how this works. This one's a little bit more green. It's more of an aqua, middle blue green. So I guess that one's light blues. This is middle blue green, but after that means I'm sort of blending it out so that it all overlaps. Because real water sort of has weird consistency that way. Especially on Eternia, where there are big giant sea monsters hiding in it. But it also kind of gives it almost a watercolory look, which is kind of what I like about it. And this is a darker blue. Again, just sort of do little bits here and there, spots and stripes. And then this is baby blue. And with the baby blue, I'm just going to sort of go over all of it. Almost like sort of a top coat where it sort of blends some of it in and gets, it's warping the paper a little bit more also. And I also have to be careful with these. I did use these a little bit on some of the stuff I worked on yesterday. And it does actually start eating into the paper. So that's why I'm sort of doing left to right, because last night when I was sort of doing back and forth, it was ripping the paper up. So this way, I'm less likely to tear the paper up. So again, I'm just going to layer this on top of everything so that it gives a sort of more consistent look to it. It gives it way more of a oceany, watery thing. Alright, it's still wet, so I'm going to let that dry. And while that dries, I'm going to take the sand and I'm going to start on the top of this cliff. We're going to use the sand as the first layer. A lot of times with the Eternia, I'll do a lot of sort of purple and stuff. In this case, I'm going to stick to more sort of earthier tones. Probably going to do some oranges and reds. But depending on like the clay and stuff, where my grandparents lived in Louisiana, there's a lot of red clay in the area, so a lot of times there was sort of this red dark brown look to a lot of stuff. So I'm gonna try to go for one of that sort of look here, especially because Mechanic has sort of the bright blue and then the red and the silver. I think they'll stand out even more with sort of this color palette. So hopefully, especially because this little corn cob right here is really bright yellow. So I feel like they go with sort of the darker reds and darker oranges, the yellow and the blue, and the bright red of this sort of pop out. Kind of the goal. I'm going to also use sand for the sand of this beach. And again, just the base level. I'm going to go in with different colors and do a little bit more. So. Time sharpen. Alright, there are all the base coats of it for the ground anyway, and then the top. I'm going to go back in now with this alcohol marker and just do some stripes. Again, it's warping the paper, but that's fine. Alright. And now we get fancy. So we're going to go in with the white paint pen. And this little brush. And we're just going to do some crust on the shoreline in the waves. So it looks like these waves are coming crashing into the shore. And for me, those black lines kind of kill the illusion of it. And since this white paint pen is really close to drying, this is a good way to get the last of the white paint out of this one. Just go in. I've had this pen I've been using for 5 or 6 months now, so it's a pretty good run considering how much I use this. Pretty much every page I do has a short. Anything that has like a face on it. This is what I use to do little dots in the eyes. Excellent. I like that. It's pretty good. Just one more. And I'm not going to do much with sort of the wave right at the shore. I'm going to wait until I have the ground done to go in and do that one. Get all the other ones. Okay. Nice. I like that. This poor sad old paintbrush. And this is why I'm hesitant to throw stuff away, is because if I had thrown this paintbrush away, I wouldn't be able to ruin it this way. But to do this fun water effect. So, there we go. Alright, I like that. It's pretty good. Alright. And then that's all done until I finish the shoreline. Let's see, what should I do here? Going with the yellow ochre. Just sort of darken it right here with waterline. And that's where I'll end up putting more paint, so sort of okay where the bleed has happened, because that's all going to be gone. Make sure Mechanic stands out. And I think you will. The silver, I'm not going to go much darker with the sand here. So I think for the sand, this is pretty good. And he will stand out, I think, pretty good right up here. So. Sort of keep it really neutral like this with sort of that sand and this yellow ochre. Yep, I like that. It's good. What's funny is already, despite the fact that I sort of set this aside, I'm like, this is a pretty boring page. I'm having a lot of fun with it, so ironic how that works sometimes. The thing that you think is going to be the most boring ends up being the most fun. Well, I'm not going to say the most fun, but I will say that I enjoyed quite a bit doing the white paint stuff. And as you can see, as that dries, it gets a little bit more translucent, but that also helps make it, helps with that sort of, again, finger quote, the realness of it. It helps add to that illusion. It's funny how the autofocus is on this one is just all over the place. And that is definitely StreamYard. So I probably should start figuring out something new that isn't going to take over the autofocus on my phone. Alright, here we are. And now that I finished the shoreline, I'm going to now go back in with the white pen and finish this up. And again, it's a lot, some of it is just because I don't like that black line there for the water. Some bit of this also. Alright, there we are. Now just Alright, I feel like that's done. And I'm just going to go back in with this yellow ochre and work at finishing the sand on the beach. Oh, it sounds like the cats are awake over here. And then that's the same. I'm not going to do a lot to darken sort of this cliff top mechanicus because I want it to stand out from the sand down here. I'm going to do a little bit at the edges. Just to sort of help give it some realism. Alright, and this is dark umber. I'm just going to go in with the this darker brown, sort of these little specks. And then this one is chocolate brown. So I'm going to use a little chocolate brown just for some of these spots where it's either supposed to be rocks or, I don't know, grit. To buff it out a little bit. And I'll do some blending with this eventually, probably with that yellow ochre again, probably, or the sand. But for now, it's just sort of where all the little spots are that are supposed to be rocks or sand. I guess I'll let you know that this is supposed to be a beach. Maybe I will. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that um, because for some, obviously, for most of these, I'm just doing sort of based on various toys or whatever. But there are a few things I've wanted that I want to start playing around with, and I was feeling really stuff like that was making me feel weird, especially because like for this MOTU one, I wanted to do the entire book in 2024. So there are a few of the pages where I'm like, it would be really fun or funny or subversive if I did this with it, but I'm like, oh, but then I realized with sort of this, I can easily print it out and then color just the mecha neck or teal or whatever in various ways, and then cut that out, and then sort of there's a lot I could do with it. So it's funny you mentioned that because it falls into like I would just print it out again, and I could do mecha neck with pink weapon or whatever, and then drop it on the rest of it. But it gives it this different context. So I want to start doing that. I'm almost to the end of doing a coloring short every day for a year, and once I'm not doing a coloring short every day, it's going to give me a little bit extra time to sort of start doing subversive stuff like that, or really sort of different things, because the 2 or 3 I've done a couple shorts that are a little extra, like the Darth Maul that I released last week had a lot of extra. There's a Queen Amidala that releases this Tuesday that I did a lot of extra on. For me, like I used different I used a lot of paint. It was a lot less pencil, and I want to start doing more of that, especially for shorts. Not to say that there won't just continue to be shorts that pop up that are just sort of time-lapse coloring straightforward, but I want to start doing some, basically pushing myself creative-wise. Like there's a lot I can do that would be fun and would add to sort of what I'm doing here. So yeah, I will even credit you on that one, because that's a cool idea to do mecha specifically with like a pink weapon, because it does change the it really changes the narrative in a lot of ways. But yeah, it will be a while, because a lot of that, like it takes a little while to come up with some of that stuff. Where it works, and it's not just let me try and do this thing that's different. There's a lot of, I've been releasing some of the original time-lapse coloring shorts I did that didn't get released as reels on Instagram. Like there's Perfuma, there's a Mermista, there's a Pika Blue. I didn't release those because they were just me sort of figuring out. The art on them wasn't very good. It was me basically trying to convert the old style guide art into coloring pages, and it wasn't entirely successful. There are a few of those that I did successfully, and they ended up posting as YouTube shorts. But those are not, but I posted those because it was, as I'm sort of in this point of trying to figure out how to start pushing myself more creatively, it's really important to sort of look at what I'm doing now and remember, like in the beginning, there were a lot of shorts I made that didn't become actual published shorts. Because it was just me sort of figuring out and sorting things and getting the idea out of my head. So exactly. that's the interesting thing. That's the same thing I couldn't figure out about this picture, and I can't tell if. And again, this is where sort of some of the shortfalls of the art sort of are, in my opinion, a little unavoidable, because is it that Tila and Mechanic are both sort of looking out for something, or is he spying on her because was he supposed to be a bad guy, or I don't know. Like, and that's, as a kid, like, it opens it up for you to figure it out, but at the same time, it's the art here leaves a lot too, in my opinion, too much to the imagination because it's too vague. I had this book as a kid, and I had it before Mechanic came out. Well, I mean, he was probably out, but it was before he hit any of our stores. I thought Mechanic was going to be a bad guy based on this art. And then he was a heroic warrior, and it sort of looks like it was always intended that he would be a good guy. So my guess is that Tila and Mechanic are both sort of watching, because at this point the snake staff, the original card art for Wave 2 for Tila said that with her staff she's able to track her enemies. So originally the staff gave her tracking powers. So I have, as an adult who knows sort of all the lore now, I often wonder if the point of this is Tila and Mechanic are basically out tracking bad guys. He can see them, her staff gives her the ability to sort of point him in the right direction as to where he should be looking with his periscope neck vision stuff. So that's how I take it as an adult. But that, and it's, on the one hand, it's kind of cool that there's that much imagination, but it would help if the art was a little bit less sloppy to know exactly what's going on. So and there's only so much I can do to unslopify the art. I feel like I've been doing pretty good so far with this book. The other page we just did with the Sorceress and He-Man, that one, like, pretty good basic art. So just doing some nice technique on it makes it way nicer than it looked before. With this, like, and it's one of the reasons it, besides the composition's just not great. I can't tell what story it's supposed to be telling for sure. Part of how I choose coloring shorts is is it telling a story? And sometimes it's just, it's a good profile picture of that particular character. But I try, especially with Barbie, I've been trying to pick stuff that tells a story so that I'm interested enough to spend 2 or 3 hours coloring it. Because if there's not anything interesting in it to me, like, it's just horrible to color something. But I like the story, and especially some of them, the story kind of completes once I stick it up on YouTube and put a song to it. So I did a Barbie a few weeks ago where it's Barbie and Ken sort of sitting by a fire and warming their hands. It's from a coloring book where it's basically just Barbie and Ken going on all these fun dates, and it's in a sequence of them. They go to a ski chalet / ski lodge or whatever, and they're warming their hands after a day of skiing. I put it to Jules' Foolish Games because I'm like, this tells a different story than what was being told in the coloring book. Was it successful? I don't know. Like, views on it were pretty good for how many people saw it, but I don't know. Sometimes if the little stories that I'm trying to add, I don't know if it always translates, but that's okay because it entertains me. So at the end of the day, right now, I'm sort of the primary audience. If I'm not I'm sort of, I don't know, it sounds almost narcissistic, but I kind of make my channel for me. It's what I'm interested in, what I want to see. I try to package it in a way where people will enjoy it. But I'm not, you know, like, I'm not big enough to get paid for YouTube. So, you know, like, I'm not getting paid. So my payment is the enjoyment and building a community. So hopefully it works for you guys. And if it doesn't, that's fine. Sometimes not everything's gonna land for it. There's something I do, and then afterwards I'm like, this is dumb. Why did I do that? It's kind of about learning and figuring out, for me anyway, what works and what entertains me. Like, if you all could see, like, sort of the file of scripts that I've half written or started that never became a video, there's like 30 in there. Just because certain things didn't interest me enough to keep at them. And ultimately, I'm not going to make a video if it, you know. There are a few, I'm not going to lie, but if I would have followed through and finished them, probably would have gotten me a lot of views and a lot of watch time and a lot of subscribers. But again, if, you know, like, it takes time to make a video, so if it's not going to enjoy it, I'm not going to enjoy the process, I'm not going to like it. There's not a big point in me making a video just for clicks, just for views, because if it's not something I'm going to do regularly, then anyone who subscribes because of that video will just unsubscribe later, because what they thought they were getting is not what they're going to get. So, anyway, that's the YouTube speech. Well, it's relevant because I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm tentatively working on I've been doing YouTube for a year now video. Don't know if it'll happen. But if it does, that is all fun. So, you know, like, I'm thinking about some of the stuff because I'm working on that script between other things. I don't know. Sometimes I don't think it interests anyone but me. Right? Yeah, exactly. Like, what all happened in that Operation Room Man at Arms? Tell us now. Oh my goodness, we just hit, it's a little over 2 hours. My alarm just popped up. It's a silence alarm. But yeah, the alarm just popped up to let me know. It says start wrapping it up so your guests can go. But since my guests didn't make it today, I'll start wrapping it up so I can go. So I can go eat some lunch. But we're going to finish this first layer of hillside. Alright, there we go. Alright. Obviously I'm going to do more with this, but that's just sort of where this is where it begins. If I didn't need to go eat, we would just hang out for another 20-30 minutes because I could probably finish everything but them. Anyway. So that's where we're ending. I will finish this. This will go on, maybe not today, but this will pop up on social media, on Instagram within the next few days when I finish it. So one last look. This is, and I also put it here. I can take the picture right after I end this so that it can go up on Instagram. So this is a Sorceress and He-Man that we did at the beginning of the episode. Looks pretty good. Autofocus disagrees, but whatever. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to wrap up. And I've mentioned it once. I am almost at the end of a year of doing this, which is cool. So everyone who is watching this live, thank you. You guys are the people who show up every week for these, and I appreciate that and you. For the people who will be watching this in replay, I also appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. It helps and is appreciated. And I'm thinking I'm gonna try to do more of these where it's just me coloring and babbling. I like these. These are good. It's also a fun way to do some of the pages that wouldn't make a good longer video. So anyway, I am gonna wrap it up. I will next Sunday I will be here with ironically Chris Plastic, who has popped in. So he and I will be here next week. We're going to be coloring some Total Justice from the 90s. So sort of tying into Power of the Force stuff happening elsewhere. 90s superhero goodness. So we'll be doing that next week. Tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I have a episode of My Favorite Toy landing, which is, if you're watching those, it's me telling stories about my favorite toys. And this one is 1998 Ewok Celebration Leia, so it's a 1998 story. And 1998 me was a mess, so that's definitely alluded to in the story. So there will be a premiere. I'll be doing chat and whatnot. So if you're around tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, definitely appreciate if you want to pop in and chat with me. It's about 8-minute video, so not a long chunk of time for you to hang out with me. Before Lawrence and a Pump with Toys goes live at 6. But after the 5 p.m. Power of the Force 2 video goes up by, I believe tomorrow, I don't know, I need to check. I know later today, Aaron Payne's Toy Samples goes live, and I believe Eldor's goes live. His is technically a little off because he is in Eternia, and Eternia is on slightly different times, so yeah. All right, so there's all of that. Obviously daily shorts happening as normal, and then Friday color and show. I believe this week is the Princess of Power page that I'm super happy with. It's one of my favorite things I've done. 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time Friday. Be there, be square. And then next Saturday, next week is 1997 Kenner toy booklet. So again, we're going big and going home with the Power of the Force 2 and the 90s, because why not? All right, and with that, excellent. Thank you, Alex. No worries. Thank you, Thanos. Appreciate it. And I'll be watching your video in about 5 to 10 minutes while I eat some lunch. See you same, Alex. Thank you, everyone. And I'm Allison Troy, Retro Toy Princess, and I will see you in the next one.